Well, hello there, and welcome to Mission Unstoppable. I want you all to buckle up because today we're going to be diving deep into the world of bold leadership and unstoppable confidence. My guest today is Jen Coken. She has been featured on ABC, MSNBC, and TEDx, and she's a globally recognized executive leadership coach, best-selling author, and keynote speaker. With her signature no-nonsense style and razor-sharp humor, you guys look at this. This is what happens on live shows. Jen has been she's coached nearly 10,000 leaders, including Fortune 1000 executives, to break barriers, lead fearlessly, and silence that little voice called imposter syndrome. And if you're ready to shatter glass ceilings and laugh while you do it, you're in the right place. Her latest best-selling book, Make Imposter Syndrome Your Superpower, provides women in STEM with actionable strategies to transform self-doubt into a leadership asset. Welcome, Jen.
Whoa. Thank you so much for having me here, Frankie. And you need to fix your microphone there.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I've lost. And now I've lost. I've lost volume 2. So sorry. You know what? We're going to have to stop and start again, I think. This is ridiculous.
No worries.
Anything can and will happen on live radio. Oh my goodness.
Of course.
Okay, you guys, don't worry about it. It's okay.
So you got it? You can hear me? I can hear you.
We're under control. It's all good. It's all good.
Nothing's in our control, but we're under control.
We are under control.
At least here in the US.
Yeah.
Okay. Not going to go there. Go
ahead. Yeah. I would love to, but not on the show.
No.
Okay. Show. So what leads to imposter syndrome? Why don't you tell us that?
You're born.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, people think, oh God, I don't have it. And it's so interesting to me sometimes, Frankie, when people come to hear me speak or what have you, and their attitude is, well, I don't have that, except we all have it. Why? Because we all have an amygdala, which is the reptilian part of our brain that wants to protect us. So any moment that feels like growth, or that, let me put it this way, any moment that feels scary, even this much scary, which is actually a growth edge, the brain, and I don't even say your brain because it's the way everybody's brain, right, works, is, oh God, something awful is going to happen. And it becomes this prediction machine.
Right.
People don't necessarily say imposter syndrome, but gosh, I doubt myself. I question myself. I notice I withhold myself in a meeting. You could smack that label on for everybody.
But more so for women.
Well, yes. And I think the reason, a couple of years ago, I think it was right after COVID, like 21, 22, the National Science Foundation did a study of workers just to see how things were going when people came back to work. 70% of all workers said they experienced imposter syndrome. People say it's more women than men. I don't agree because I have seen it in both genders. What I also tell people is it's not a syndrome. We just use that for SEO, quite honestly. And why do I say that? Because it's not a medical diagnosis. It's a phenomenon, meaning it's happening. It's an as-lived experience. You, at least for me, maybe not you, I go into any networking event and I am a closet introvert. Okay. If I've been on the road speaking, I'm like, I have people too hard. I just need to sit on my couch, eat food in my house, and spend time with my significant other, and everybody else go away, kind of thing.
Right.
But if I'm about to walk into a networking event, sweaty armpits, heart palpitations, that's feeling like an imposter, like you don't belong, or why am I here, or who's going to, it becomes that.
Yeah, nobody would expect that from you.
Oh, I know. I tell people that all the time. It's like being 6 in the new school and wondering, am I going to have any friends when you walk in the room? And I've had to coach my own self, and I've had coaches forever, and train myself not to succumb to the brain's negativity bias, because that's what imposter phenomenon is. It's the brain's negativity bias, and often it holds us back from going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know that you mentioned in the very first chapter of your book, you talk about values. And as a coach, we're both coaches. As a coach, that's one thing, the very first thing I ask people, what do you value? What are your values? Do you know your values? And most people don't. They've never stopped to think about them.
Nope.
And so I go, let's find 20 and then pair it to 5. And then the next thing after that is your belief system, because this all stems from your belief system, right?
Absolutely. And we have a very similar style. I start with people's personal vision and mission and then get into the values because I think that creates the foundation. And if they have stopped at all to examine, it's unconscious examination, and the majority of those values are inherited
Yes.
unconsciously from childhood, from parents, from where we live, the whole piece, right? So, yes, those disempowering beliefs, one of the things I used to do all the time with people, and this is what I do in my keynote, is I do a very short 5-minute meditation that I've designed to help people identify one of their core limiting beliefs. What I've found is most people have 3 to 5, all kind of stems back to the same moments. And
Yep.
so through the opportunity for people to connect, not just to their thoughts, because we spend so much time in our head, but connect to the body sensations that are associated with those thoughts, connect to the emotions, the mood, they can see where that earlier similar event happened. And I always joke and say, see, you have an upset 6-year-old leading a company in the body of a 52-year-old woman. How you feeling?
Yeah, exactly. And in the book, you talk about, usually around the ages of 9, somewhere 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, which is exactly when it happened to me.
Mm,
In my coaching stuff, we call it underlying automatic commitment, but it's really, and I took that thread, and the commitment was, you can't do anything until you lose weight. That was commitment, right? Well, can't go on stage, can't go here, you can't get a job, you can't do anything, really pretty much anything until you lose weight because you don't deserve it. Well, I
mm.
took that thread and I went all the way back. Guess what? My mom had said, you can't have a puppy until you lose 9 pounds or something like that. And I went,
Yeah.
aha, the light bulb moment went on. Look, this is where it came from. And even though I
Yep.
still know that, you still have to think about it, stop yourself, go, no, you
Yeah.
don't do that. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and our parents don't, it's not like they've set out to, can I say this, screw with our lives. Like it's not
Yeah,
that they've set out to sabotage us. It's things that happen in a moment, but the mind, because it isn't ever dealing with reality and is only ever dealing with our perception of reality, immediately figures out a way to file it in some corner of our brain. And lo and behold, yeah, I need to lose 9 pounds before I can step on the stage.
right.
I was actually 6 on the playground, and usually I find it's, but I say 0 to 12,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that seems to be sometime in there, and usually between like 9 and 12. Anywho, I'm on the playground, and I love this boy Keith, and my best friend loves this boy too. And so we decided as precocious 6-year-olds, and I'm doing this on purpose, to
Yes.
chase him around the playground and see who he would kiss. And she puckered up and he held out his cheek and she kissed his cheek. And I puckered up and he looked at me and went, ew, sheer mortification, wanted to
Yeah.
drop. It was like at that moment, I felt like every kid was looking at me and all I could hear in my mind. And I, to this day, don't know if this was real or not.
Yeah.
Ha, ha,
Oh
like
my
every child on the
gosh.
playground.
Yeah.
And then this other boy that I thought had the cooties kissed me. So what did I decide? I can't ever get what I want, and don't ever put yourself out
Mm,
there. So
wow.
now you get why when I walk into a room where it's a networking event, immediately it's like a straitjacket around my ribs and I suck in my breath and I have to keep breathing. It's okay. You're not 6 anymore. And Keith isn't here. And the other
Yeah.
guy, maybe his name was John. I don't
And there's no more
remember.
cooties.
Cootie boy. Yeah.
Yeah, cootie boy. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. And I know you said you wrote the book for women in STEM, and it is easier to write a book towards a certain audience that especially that because you got to market it somewhere, right? But I do feel it's for all women, especially
Yes.
women in leadership, C-suite women, because they're affected by this, and you always kind of wonder, am I one trick pony? Can I do this again? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's because this is the playbook I wish I had coming up through politics and through the energy industry, because it is so distinct, because it is a pretty much male dominated space. But you are absolutely correct, Frankie. It is for men and women leaders, because
Yeah.
I think it's teaching lessons again that I wish I had known back then, that just because I failed doesn't make me a failure.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a real prescription. It's a prescriptive book, and it's very, very helpful. And I think if people would read this from, chapter one right to the end, they would really get a lot of benefit from it. I know I did. I think it was amazing. The ideas that you have in there, the humor that you have in there, and the chapter that you mentioned about it can take a long time for a habit, but if the habit is engaged with something that's fun or humorous, you get it quick. And
Yes.
and I think that's helpful in your book. You have a lot of humor, and I think you get it quick.
And that's also why throughout the book, I say it's the power of the pause. And I always do
I love
this.
that.
There's a
Yeah.
couple of shots of me speaking, like back in 2019 was the first time I gave this talk where it was kind of what had happened was I had been on a contract with a big enterprise level tech company. I was miserable. I went in so hopeful and excited. I was coaching this group and it was amazing. And I found myself in between the cohorts when we met. And it was like London and LA and all these, San Francisco, all these great places. I was under the covers crying. I felt so out of my depth. I wasn't. I
No.
felt so disconnected. I wasn't. But it was a toxic culture that I, without thinking about it, allowed myself to get sucked into. And so it took me working with my coach to distinguish what had happened and the story I made up. And I went, oh my God, this ran my entire life. Funny sidekick. I did comedy for 7 years. Always never going to put myself out there at all. So I have, for my whole career, stood up other people, stood up other people's vision. And 10 years ago, when I went into business for myself, it was kind of like, oh, I got to talk about me. Oh, I got to market me. Oh, but this happens with women across the board, doesn't it? Where we don't know how to articulate our value. We think we should be humble, except if you're not going to recognize yourself, nobody else is. You don't ask for that promotion. No one else is going to say to you, hey, Frankie, right this way. Would you like this? In fact, I've had people say to me, I wouldn't have, this person came to me and said she would have been considered for the job. I had no idea because she didn't speak up.
Okay. Yeah. And it's interesting because that you say that because even as early as like last week, somebody said, they asked me about something, go, oh, I don't really have anything to say. I'm sure I got
You
lots
said
to
that?
say. I did. I said that. And I'm like, I'm sure I got lots to say, but why would I say that? I just like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
promote myself.
And it's so automatic, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
it's just
So
automatic.
automatic. So automatic.
And that's what I try to do with the book is give people specific things to because we have to consistently interrupt the brain pattern, interrupt the
Yes.
brain's negativity bias.
Yeah. It was another interesting thing is, when I was thinking about the STEM and I think you were an engineering student. Were you an
No,
engineer?
no, 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 no. I was in politics for 25
Politics.
years.
Okay.
And then I
Something
was in the
else.
energy industry, never an engineering student, but it was my master's degree. Well, my undergraduate was political science. I was one of
Okay.
few women
Yes.
in that major back in the day. This was in the 80s. And then my master's degree was in political campaign management. And I was the only woman among like a dozen guys. And I had an advocate, I had an ally who, I'd be sitting in rooms and the guys would be talking about strategy and talking over each other. And I just didn't even feel like playing that game or putting forth the energy. And my friend Scott would kind of stop the action and go, Jen, what do you think? And I would say what I thought. It would stop everybody in their tracks. Like, oh, we hadn't thought about that because I have a natural talent of being able to hear patterns and data. I'm
Okay.
very good that way. So I can sit in coalition meetings with
Yeah.
people really at odds with each other and say, wait a minute, I think we're saying the same thing. I call it landing the plane. I use Clifton Strengths as my assessment with my clients. And so being strategic is one of my top
Mm.
strengths. I've always had that ability, but I had an ally. Then I had to figure out how to advocate for myself. And I think that's really important as women to find allies
Yes.
until we can advocate for
Yes.
ourselves. If I had been on that call with you, I would have said, Frankie, you have a lot to say about that. Seriously.
Yes. Yes. And that's the other thing, coaches need coaches. We
Yes.
never stop needing, even if they're just something to bounce something off. You never stop or ask you
Yes.
the question that you didn't ask yourself. We all still need it. You never stop learning. You never stop growing. So
Exactly.
why would you
I
stop
always,
needing?
yeah, I compare it to like being in the Olympics, right? Even an Olympic athlete still has a coach. They're at the top of their game.
Yeah.
but they still have somebody who can witness them from observe, right? From the
Observe.
outside.
Yes.
Wait a minute, your hand was over a quarter inch. And if it was moved to the right a quarter inch, you would stick your landing.
Yeah.
Those nuances are what people like you and me can see and
That's it.
hear when we're coaching someone else. And you're right, I'll never be without a coach. Why? Because and you're probably the same way. I'm interested in honestly coming from my heart and being loving. That is bottom line for me, is creating love in the world. That is
Hmm.
my purpose. My vision is a world of people at home with themselves. That comes from love. And if
Hmm.
we don't love ourselves because we're cutting ourselves off and questioning and doubting, we need somebody to remind us
That's
of who we
right.
really are.
We
And that's
really
what we
do.
as coaches do, right?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And, another thing when I'm reading, I was also in male, dominated fields. I was, managed world kickboxing champion. I put on the world championships. And I'm reading this book and I'm thinking, these women who were in STEM and came through like 20 years ago, they came through it pretty much alone.
Yeah.
So they already know how hard it was going to be for them when they got out. They'd already done all the hard stuff. They went through school with these guys. These guys were their contemporaries. Now, they're working with them or they're leading them. What's the big deal? Why can't they remember that? Right?
Because we're human again,
Yeah,
right? Because once again, we tell ourselves so many stories, and our interpretations and perceptions we think are the truth. They
yeah,
are not. We are never dealing with reality. That is the bottom line. Remember, we're never dealing with reality. And this is from a neuroscientist.
yeah,
We're only ever dealing with our perceptions about things. This is why two people can walk away from a conversation and have completely different experiences of being there.
yeah,
So I think they forget also because they are in an environment that was not built for them in the first place. It was not built for women in mind. What do I mean by that? There's nothing wrong from wrong with the way companies are constructed. However, what it's based on is a very hierarchical, patriarchal system where authority is seen as power rather than authenticity and confidence. I just finished, I do these 6-week programs around executive presence. And really, the first one is internal leadership. How do I tap into my internal authenticity? How do I be true for myself, true to myself when I'm leading? Most of us haven't examined that because we just kind of go with the flow. I
right.
think when we start with, all right, what's my North Star? What are my values? What's my vision and mission? What is that? What are some of those core limiting beliefs that get in the way? We begin to come home to ourselves. And every single woman that was in that program today, because it was our final call and they were sharing with me what they got, to a T, it was, I realize the more authentic I am, the more power I have. I said, that's all I've ever
Yeah,
wanted.
you got to stop hiding. You got to stop the
Yes.
hiding.
But it
So
feels
hiding
scary.
that takes up so much energy to keep hiding.
It
So much,
does. It
so
does,
much.
but it's weird, right? Because it feels like, oh, it's easier. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to fill in the blank. Freaking rock the boat.
Yeah, yeah,
One woman that I was coaching who just was promoted had a new team, and she was talking about how stressed she was about the promotion. And oh my God, she has 2 little kids. Like, how do I take time for them? And I said, okay, let's play. If you had your ideal day, what would that look like? Like ideal. Well, I'd wake up and I'd have an hour to myself, to have coffee and play on my phone, whatever. And then in the middle of the day, I would take a 15-minute break and walk outside. I said, why can't you do that? Well, I can't just take a 15-minute break and walk outside. I said, who said?
yeah. You're the boss.
But yeah, I know. I think we forget about our own agency. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It totally
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. When I worked for the government too, and I had a really interesting role, special advisor for spirit. And so I was to create initiatives and programs that allowed 60,000 public servants to be happy without giving them money. But
Oh my gosh.
my boss was Secretary of Cabinet, but his boss, her boss, what or my he was an engineer. So after I implemented some programs and performance measurement was people were smiling. They came to work smiling. Well, that's not a hard, no, it's not. It's not a hard performance measurement, but it's a real one. It's a real one because people didn't used to smile. They didn't used to say hello or good morning, and now they do. And so that's the big thing. A man didn't catch that. The women, I think they enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Knowing that you could talk to people now. You could say hello. It was
Yeah.
hard to come to work and people don't look at you or say
And
hello to
people
you.
don't look at you and they don't smile and you kind of go grumpily into your office. What you did, and the guy who questioned you about this couldn't see it at the time, is you increased employee retention, employee engagement.
Right.
And the ROI on that is astronomical. The average cost to replace somebody between $100,000 and $250,000, depending on their level. You have a leadership pipeline or a program like that, you're not going to have to go outside the company. People will do whatever they want to do to stay because they love working there. And I love that you said that, because when people ask me what I do, I said, I create cultures where people love coming to work every day.
Yeah. See, that's what you need. And like you said in the book, people, they don't leave companies, they leave bosses, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've had
Exactly.
some hard ass bosses in my time, but I don't like to work for anybody. I like to work for myself. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
probably,
But sometimes I hate my boss,
yeah, I
you
know.
know?
She's not very nice to herself
She's not
sometimes.
very nice sometimes. She doesn't give me any breaks. I don't have vacation, whatever.
Yeah, let's go back to the brain for a sec because, people, they don't always understand what we mean when, our subconscious really is just a hard drive. Like stuff is thrown into it. And what it takes sometimes, like you're fat or you're this or you're that. It's not judging. It's just taking in what we said to ourselves. And that was it. That's what you said. I'm going to
Yep.
output it. But they think, we say it's not reality, but you know what? When you're watching a movie and you start crying because something happens or the dog dies and you cry, and if you said to yourself, well, this isn't real, why am I crying? Because the brain doesn't perceive the difference. Your subconscious can't perceive that difference. Just like when we're having this conversation, are we going to walk away with two different, or the people listening, are they going to walk away with different perspectives on what we just said? Are they going to see themselves or not?
Right. Right. And I think it's also important to remember that we have two things. We have more gray matter in our gut than we do in our
Yes.
head. I just was meeting with an oncological molecular biologist.
Love it.
Try saying that 10
I
times
can't.
fast.
I can't even say it
And
once.
she dropped that stat on me. I thought, oh my God. But we also have gray matter in our cells. So
Mhm.
when we're watching that movie and crying, we actually are living through memories, but it's also showing us we're empathetic as
Mhm.
human beings and we can feel. Now, the key to determine, because you're watching a movie and you're crying, and then the movie ends, you're like, oh, right, back to reality, except that doesn't happen in everyday life. So, how do we sort through that? The best tool that I give my clients when you're upset, sad, angry, guilty, ashamed, any of the negative emotions, stop the action, pause, right?
Yep.
Take a piece of paper, write out everything you're upset about, everything, whose fault, be like a private eye investigating a murder, whose fault it is, why, what she said, like get it all down on a piece of paper and stop yourself, grab a highlighter or pen and just circle the facts. Once you separate fact from feeling, you're present. And when you're present, you have presence.
Mm,
Presence of mind, body, soul, and spirit.
that's
Mind
a
to think
really good
clearly,
one.
soul to speak your truth, body to embody the kind of empowered leader that you want to embody, and spirit, God, Bob, your dog, the universe. I don't care what you say. You could call it your gut instinct. When you're present, you can hear that still small voice inside because you do have all the answers inside. And I'm
You
sure
do.
as a coach, you come across this too, where people, well, what do you think?
Not
It's
what
not
I
about
think.
what we think.
No,
Nope.
not about
We're
us at
just going to
all.
ask you more questions and piss you off, but you have the answers. We're just trying to ask the right questions to get to it.
The bag. I loved the bag. Hilarious. Oh my God.
The
The
bag.
the big, hairy, audacious
Oh,
goal.
BHAG, BHAG.
BHAG. Well, to me, it sounded like
Yeah, big,
bag.
hairy, audacious goals. Yeah,
They are awesome. That was awesome.
yeah,
You got some really good ones in there. So let's talk about those.
yeah. I got that phrase from a friend of mine who was a marketing genius, and it's something that's in the lexicon. Like you know how when oh, that's a new word, and then you realize no, it's been talked about forever, and you just missed the
It was a big old
moment, or you
buzzword.
weren't ready to hear it. So I tell people to dream big.
Yeah.
Because often, even when I'm working with clients in the beginning and we're setting goals for a 6-month engagement, if I'm working with them privately, and this came about because I had a client, I used to coach men and women, and he would say to me, I don't want to create goals that I don't know that I'm going to achieve. I was like, what's the fun in that? He was very tactile. He was an
Mm.
auditor for the
He
IRS.
just
So
wanted to
you
be
can imagine.
successful. That was it. He had to be successful.
Exactly. Had to be successful or he was in big trouble. So when I think about big, hairy, audacious goals, it's like sitting down, staring out the window, and just imagining what you want your life to be like. What would you want your friend circle to be like? Your home environment to be like? Your work, all the things. Let yourself dream big. And then I take people through an exercise to look at, okay, well, here's the BHAG, here's the goal, here's the dream. That's why I say smart goals are stupid because it limits our ability
Yeah.
to think big because the brain's negativity bias automatically says to us, that won't happen. Or what? It's someone else's voice in our head saying to us, you're not going to amount to much. You're too fat to go on stage. And you're thinking, where did that come from? Mom, puppy,
Yeah. Thank
9
you so
years old.
much.
Yeah, exactly. So we look at the space or the moment between, well, where am I now and where in this dream life that I want to have on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I? I'm a 3. Okay, let's move the needle. Let's move it to a 5. What's it going to take to get it to a 5? So we can have these moments, these stepping stones. You could call it objectives along the way or goals along the way, but we got to start with the big picture. And this is also, honestly, Frankie, comes from my campaign background. You start with the end in mind and you work
Hmm.
your way backwards. What's the big dream? Now we're going to work our way backwards. I've always had a dream of singing with a rock band.
Okay.
I've always imagined myself, I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, and mom made some offhand comment, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to wait tables. And when I was like 12, and I thought, oh, I don't want to
Wow.
work hard. It's so stupid because I've been working my buns off ever since in a
Yeah.
good
No
way.
kidding.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to sing in a rock and roll band. And only recently I started singing at open mic nights. And then a
For
couple of the
you.
guys that I was doing harmonies with, they're like, hey, come to practice. I went to practice last night for the first time.
Good for
And we're
you.
going to start having practice every Monday. And we're going to try to find more people to what? To form a band. Now that seems like pie in the sky. But what was my stepping stone? Having the confidence because other friends were doing it too. And they were encouraging me. And my boyfriend was encouraging me. He's like, you have a good voice. You should get up there. And so it was like the first time I was like this at the microphone. And then second time.
But you love being on the stage, so it's perfect for you.
I know. Exactly. Exactly.
I love it too. I'm a drummer, so
You are? I love that. Do you know that drummers, because I had to research this, are the true multitaskers? Because you're doing 4 different things with your limbs. And other people's brains are not set up that way. But because you know how to drum, you've rewired your brain to actually be a multitasker.
yeah, it's incredible. And the hardest thing ever is to drum and sing. That's like the hardest thing to do. I don't do
You
that.
do that too?
No, I can't do that. I mean, I could harmonize. I couldn't lead it though.
Right.
But yeah, it is very
Right.
hard. But it's I love it. Like it's
That's so cool. Do you
I love
play in a
fun.
band?
I did. Yeah, I did. We broke up a couple years ago, but I love it. Yeah,
What kind of music did you play?
I like R&B. I like funk,
Yeah. Love it.
blues.
I love R&B and funk too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's my fun place,
I love
right?
that. I love that.
Yeah, me too. So that took me off. Oh, singing stage. I had a question for you, and I can't remember what it was now. I'm sorry, and I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
No, no, that's okay. That's okay. What were we talking about right before there? We were talking about the brain and how the brain works. We were talking about
Yes. Well,
right.
it
We had
doesn't
talked
matter.
about BHAGs.
Yes. Oh, the big dreams. So I want to talk, let's talk about dreaming because, people go, oh, come back to reality, come back to reality. That's not real. And I really have this special thing that my dad, he allowed me to dream. He was a big dreamer. He's a Pisces, like the dreamers, right? And then he allowed me to dream and have big dreams. And he never, ever once said to me, oh, that can't happen. And so when my kids want to do something big, I go, okay. My son wanted to go, he was 15 or, yeah, 15. He wanted to go see this Jeep. Well, it was 2 hours away. And he goes, but Mom, it's got Mickey Thompson tires. It's got this, it's got that. Can you take me? Let's go. We drove out to see the Jeep. The Jeep didn't even have a floor. Some guy put seats in from another car. It was like the stupidest thing I ever saw. The tires were hitting the rims every time. He couldn't even drive it because it was stick. So I drove it around. And at first he goes, that's really cool, right? And I go, and then he sits with it on the way home. He had his buddy with him. And finally he said, that was a piece of shit, right? And I go, yeah. That was, but I let him dream. And that's a important thing. And so many of us are stifled in our childhood and our teenage years and whatever to say, get back to reality. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get in a rock band. You're not going to sing. You're not going to do that. And so what do? You look for smaller avenues. You look for things that you didn't really want to do, but it's more acceptable.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It is very sad. And I feel like I don't know if I bet you're going to say this makes sense to you too. When you're in the industry that we're in, coaching others, and as we spoke about previously, we have our own coaches and we're continually doing that. And quite honestly, if you talk to someone who's a coach that doesn't have their own coach, do not ever hire them. Because they have stopped growing. They think they know it all. That's the guru, right? The sage on the stage versus guide on the side. Oh, I was going somewhere with that one, and then I just also took us off to Paris about that too. Where did we start with?
Okay, so we were talking about big dreams.
Oh yeah, other people's opinions. I think we have to unlearn so much of what we grow up with. And again, our parents, our grandparents, our friends, it wasn't as if they were trying to stifle us, but the smallest thing impacts us so heavily that we don't realize. So being able to excavate those moments are so impactful and so incredible. Notice if you start thinking about doing something, whatever that is, it's probably not even your voice. Whose
voice are you hearing? Exactly.
Yeah, it's not yours.
Yeah. I in my book, I said, spill some milk. What's the first thing you hear? You stupid idiot. Or whose voice is it? It's not your voice. Somebody, you're hearing it. And it's like, well, why couldn't you put the good thing in my brain? Why did you have to put the nasty things in my brain? Why couldn't you say, yeah, you're amazing?
Right, because it's other people's negativity bias. I tell that to people all the time. Look, that person at work that doesn't stop complaining, it's because her negativity bias or their negativity bias or his negativity bias has taken over. Yeah. We were in, my boyfriend and I just came back from South Carolina and we went to Beaufort, which is like a tiny Charleston. And it's this historic town, beautiful. And we said, okay, we're going to do a carriage ride around town. So we get up and we go down and the place is locked up tight. And Jeremy goes on the website, and he started crumbling. He was like, oh my God, I did it for September 10th. I said, no problem. Look, this place is open. They do golf cart tours. Why don't we go in there? And he was so beside himself. I said, sweetie, it's fine. Just cancel it, get your money back, and let's go do the golf cart tour. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, thank you for being so understanding. I can only imagine what his childhood was like, that moment of I made a mistake was horrific, right? And we blow these things out of proportion.
Yeah. But you see, my number one value, or in my top 5, is flexibility. It has to be there. That. Yeah. So what?
Ease. My word for the year is ease.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever. We're on vacation.
Yeah.
Why are we stressing over this?
Why are you married to that one idea? Move on.
Exactly.
There's other ways to get around town, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that too. Yeah, it's interesting, but that's also personalities. There are personalities, Virgos, who are kind of like.
Which ones? Virgos?
Are you Virgo?
Uh-huh.
But it's true. A lot of
August 30th. But I did. Virgos are much the perfectionist. I had to unlearn.
Yeah, very much the perfectionist.
I had to start with me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because I was like, do it this way, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, we can't deviate from the plan. Don't deviate from the plan. But
yeah. That's exactly. And I'm such I say I'm a non-planner, though I am a planner, but I'm not married to it. I can pivot. I can jump over it.
You're flexible.
I'm flexible. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere.
You do. My kids are all perfectionists. And I would see my daughter, she would handwrite this beautiful, beautiful handwriting. She put get one little mistake at the end. She'd tear it up and do it all over. I wouldn't have done that. I would not have done that. I would have like done something, but I
It's
wouldn't have
good
done
enough.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good enough. There you go. And maybe that's wrong too. But I felt so bad for them because they're just
Mm,
so married to this perfectionism.
mm.
But everybody's a little bit different, right?
Everybody's a little bit different.
But those
And
belief systems are, you have to ask yourself, is that true for me?
yeah,
I'm afraid of bugs. Am I afraid of bugs, or was I afraid of bugs because my mom was afraid of bugs? Like, who's afraid of bugs? Me? Me. I am.
you
My
know what I
mother
call
wasn't.
that? You know what I call that? IBS, irritable belief systems,
Yeah, that's a good one. I love it.
which do give you like, do make you sick to your stomach.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I do the BMW. I do the you get 2 minutes to bitch, moan, and whine, and then
Wait,
that's it.
say that again. The what?
BMW, bitch, moan, and whine, and then you
Bitch,
move
moan,
on.
and whine. Ooh, I like that.
Because, as coaches, we want people to take responsibility. Stop blaming other people for God's sakes. Just take your own
Yes.
responsibility. There's no fear in that. Then it's over. You say, hey, sorry, I made a mistake, and move
Yep.
on. Right?
Yep.
So much better than trying to hide. Oh my God, I made a mistake. I don't want them to know about it. Oh my God, that's so
So,
much energy.
so much energy. It's interesting. I was talking with a colleague yesterday, and she was sharing a story with me about somebody else who had done something that really broke their professional partnership. And when my colleague confronted this person, the response was, I'm sorry. I know I should have come to you with this, and I'm trying to work through that, but I haven't yet. Didn't apologize for not coming to her. Didn't apologize for hiding it, just made an excuse. And I went,
Yeah,
ew,
yeah,
ew, it's icky.
yeah.
But it takes maturity to do that. It really does.
Yeah. I guess it's learned behavior.
Absolutely. Ingrained, right? So what we're doing is we're identifying the disempowering brain patterns. And I am not a neuroscientist by perfection, but I saw Dr. Joe Dispenza like
Love
12,
him.
13 years ago speak at a conference. And he described it the way he described it from like neuroscience. I'm going to share what I heard him say, which I still think holds water, which is when we identify that disempowering belief and we're able to provide the tools to continually disrupt it, because identifying it once is not a one and done.
Right.
So, first of all, if you think about a brain pattern between two neurons, there's glue that sticks the pattern to each of the neurons that connects them. The moment you identify that limiting belief, it's like you're releasing some of that glue, you know? And when you identify or when you create a new pattern or a new belief, a new value, you're creating a new neural pathway. Then it is practice to get it as ingrained. Otherwise, we gotta keep interrupting. Like the needle, remember 30 albums when the
Yeah.
needle will get stuck in that groove. We've got to get it out of the groove
Yeah.
time and time and time again.
Got
And remember,
that little deer path and a little rut. And now you got to
yep,
keep switch over to this new little path and keep wearing it down so that that's your new go-to neuron. So your next thought is a positive instead of a negative.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening, are you still, wondering about your syndrome, which isn't a syndrome at all?
Or wondering, okay, here's what I just told the women in my program today, because I gave them, we start our next part two in a month. And I said, okay, we're creating 30-day plans. So one of your actions you're going to take is set a timer on your phone, your watch, whatever you use, say 2, 3 times a day, and just stop the action and go, what limiting belief am I thinking of right now? And create a limiting belief diary so you can start to notice the pattern.
Hmm.
And so one of the patterns I began to notice for myself was questioning myself, thinking I don't know enough, that I'm not right because I got kissed. The other boy, the cootie boy, kissed me, which
Right.
when I'm in that pattern, I rely too much on other people because I'm not present and I'm doubting my own expertise. When I'm able to see it and interrupt it, as I've been working on over the last 6 years, very, very vigorously, I go, wait a minute, let me just check in with my gut. What does my gut say? So number one, set an alarm in your watch or your phone or whatever and write down those limiting beliefs. Also notice and ask yourself when you've gotten triggered by something to ask yourself, what's an earlier similar moment that this reminds me of? What's an earlier similar moment, earlier similar
Mm,
moment?
good
So
one.
you can, go all the way back to the beginning
Yep.
like you did with the puppy.
Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I did it on a timeline. Go, okay, you go back 5 years and you go, okay, go back another five. What, go back another five. And you
Right.
think of it and who was around and who was there and why would you feel this way? It's interesting. It's actually just, being a detective in your own life, right? It's
Absolutely.
really, really interesting. But the idea of the limiting belief, I mean, I did the snap the rubber band, when you have it or have a happy thought in your pocket so you can always bring it out. Maybe it's your puppy, maybe it's your horse, maybe it's your husband, whatever, but have a happy thought and replace that negative belief. But it's important to do that. So important. And this idea of being an imposter, how can you be an imposter in your own life?
Say that one more time.
How
The
can you
last
be an
part.
imposter in your own life? It's your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Right.
you are who you
Well,
are.
yeah, I think it is like, just to give another example of one of my clients, she had this moment that she got back to when she was about 11. And one of her cousins they were a little wealthier. And so the little cousin had name brand clothes and she was
Mhm.
getting rid of things she had outgrown. And so invited all the other girl cousins to come over. And my client picked up a pair of white jeans to go try them on. And her auntie looks at her and goes, "Sweetie, you're too big for those." And I would have put them down and like skulked away. She didn't. She was like, "I'll show you," and went in the bedroom and zipped them on. Now, what's interesting, two things. One is she's a very successful serial entrepreneur, meaning she started and sold multiple companies.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to show you became so ingrained in her, but she could never celebrate her achievements because she still had to
Mhm.
show people. The other interesting part was she had never worn white jeans again. And the moment we identified that brain pattern,
Wow.
literally the next day, she bought a pair of white jeans and did an entire photo shoot in them.
Good for her. Good for
Right?
you too. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just amazing these innocuous moments and what our brain does with it.
I'm sure there's many women listening who, like myself, were told in math class how stupid you are. You are stupid, man. Like you just don't get this.
Yep.
And never did I think, well, maybe you're not a good teacher. And many
Huh.
years went by, and I go, I can do English, but I can't do math. Don't give me any math. But I could do 25% off at a sale. That I knew.
Right?
Right? So, you know, years go by and finally, might have even been my son, I don't know. But somebody showed me something. I went, wait a second, that's not hard. Like, why didn't somebody just show me the right way, the easy way, the smart way, whatever way that
Right.
I could understand it? Because we all have different learning styles, right?
Exactly.
Some people like to
Exactly.
see it, hear it, whatever, do it. I like you to sit right next to me, show me, boom, okay, now I get it. So I got it. And I'm like, wait, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. This is great. Like, hallelujah. I might
Like
be
I'm a
stupid about other
50-year-old
things, but
woman or 40,
yeah,
whatever, 45. And I'm like realizing just now that I'm not stupid.
that I'm
Yeah.
not stupid. But
Yeah.
thank you, teacher, for telling me that I was.
I can't believe your teachers. I mean, back in our day, they did some dumb stuff.
Really dumb stuff.
Dumb
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Hitting you, that they were allowed to
Yeah.
do stupid stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
really dumb. But
Yeah.
who knows if they're any better today? I hope they are. I think they're more stressed today. I think kids today are well, because they don't have the obedience factor we did. Like, I mean, we were halfway obedient because if you looked at us, we're all, excuse me,
Right.
right? But now they're like, ah, screw off. They don't care. So it is
Yeah.
hard to be a teacher today. So I do give them kudos, but yeah, that's another topic. But you're being a teacher and getting up on stage and leading people and showing people and coaching people is teaching as well. And so do you have different learning styles for them? Do you offer different ways of people to get your information?
Yeah. Yeah. And two things about that. When I speak or when I'm doing a workshop, I tell people, number one, don't take notes. And they look at me like I have 17 heads. Like, here's why I don't want you to take notes, because what I'm about to share with you isn't learning like we think about in school, where you have this in fourth grade and this in fifth grade and it builds. on stuff. This is experiential. I want you to hear it, apply it to your life, and write down your aha moments. That's what's most important. I think a couple of things. I usually always have slides because I think some people need that visual to be able to see something.
Yes.
Number two, I will a couple of different things. If I'm doing a session on strengths, there's certain strengths that people have that cause them that they want to think about things. So I'll know where those people are in the room and I'll come to them last. And the other piece is especially being wanting to account for the neurospicy, neurodiverse population. Not everybody's going to want to get up and talk, but we think the real leaders are the ones out front. And I've always said, no, they're the quiet ones, the ones you don't see, the ones that don't really toot their own horn. So I will give people paper to write things down so they get their thoughts down before sharing, and anytime I speak, it is not the traditional, I'm sure you're the same way too, keynote where it's like, hey, here's my hero's journey and how I overcame it. And you can be like me too. Bye-bye. Mine is always experiential, always, okay, we're working on this together. This is a symbiotic relationship here because I think that's important. I want people leaving there transformed.
Right.
I want them walking out completely distinct from how they walked in. And if they don't walk out completely distinct, at least they're like, oh my God, I had never thought about myself that way, or fill in the blank that way. But that takes two.
Yes.
I don't have that knowledge. I can create the roadmap, right?
Well, you don't have the answer for everything, but you have the gateway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. You reminded me that I did have Bruce Lipton on my show, Dr. Lipton on my show many, 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 many years ago. And he talked about the brain being on your skin, on your arm. I remember that now.
Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton. Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah. And our imaginal cells and all that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Fascinating people that walk through this world.
So many fascinating people, so many interesting people for sure. Yeah.
So you have other books too.
I do. My first book is called When I Die, Take My Panties.
Love that.
And it is a memoir. My mother passed away from ovarian cancer, and this is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I should have turned down the sound on mic. I don't know if you just heard that ding, ding, ding. Okay, no. Good. I'm glad you didn't. It's a memoir really looking at the relationship I have with my mom and her journey, because when she was diagnosed, we knew nothing about ovarian cancer. She was diagnosed stage 4, as most women are. And there's 23 types of ovarian cancer.
Oh, I did not know
that's why there's no test, no way to know. So we have to know the symptoms, and it's BEAT, B-E-A-T, bloating. What woman doesn't have bloating?
Yeah.
Eating, you feel full really quickly, or you're not hungry at all. Abdominal pain and trouble urinating. Either you can't empty your bladder, or you feel like you have to go and you can't. All 4 of those at one time, get to your gynecologist and say, prove to me I don't have it. The only way to prove you don't have it is to biopsy tissue. Right. I know 3 women that were diagnosed stage 1 after reading my book. And I always looked to heaven and said, Mom, we got another one. Now, I have had a dream of thinking about BeHags. We'll circle back to this, of having that book be a movie, only for the sole purpose of saving more women's lives. It wasn't about getting my book on screen. It was about a vehicle to share with people the relationship I had with my mom, to share her philosophy of growing old authentically, not gracefully. That's a bunch of crap. Don't grow old gracefully. Do not go quiet into that good night. Right? Exactly. So a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, I hired a couple of writers from Hollywood who wrote a screenplay. I wrote a script and did all the things that go with it. And I signed an agreement with a production house about beginning of last month. Fantastic. And we're putting the package together and shopping it around. It is nothing like the book. It is a comedy, a dramedy, kind of a comedy drama, romantic comedy set in a retirement community. I know 2 filmmakers who'd be perfect for that. What's that? I know 2 women filmmakers who'd be fantastic for that. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, we're just shopping around for directors right now. And then we have ideas about, I have the producer already. And her idea, which I loved, was to have it be a vehicle for SNL cast members. And so who we'd love, if you're listening, is Lorraine Newman and Hannah Einbender, her daughter, who's in Hacks right now. That's who we'd love to have be my mom and me in the movie. And it's a
Nice.
hilarious movie. It's hilarious. All the characters are quirky. It's very indie. It's kind of like Little Miss Sunshine. Remember that? Remember that movie? Yeah, kind of like that quirky, weird
I got the
indie
director for
film.
you.
What's that?
I said, now I definitely know the director for you.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that's her in a nutshell. Yeah, quirky. Her movie's coming out soon. It's very quirky.
oh,
Yeah, we'll talk after. Wow. People can go to your website, jencoken.com.
they can. They can go to my website. They can also email me, jen@jencoken.com, if they want to find out more. And I have a quiz they can take.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
stuff too. You got stuff after they read your book. I love that
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. JenCokenQuiz.com. You can read it before, after. But yeah, in my book, there's a QR code in the back with lots of, I don't know where it is exactly. Somewhere in here, there's like a page to go download more
Yep.
resources. I'm trying to get to it. Yeah, in the book. Because we will be changing those up as other things
Yeah,
come
it was really good.
available.
And I mean, one thing that comes through in the book is really about looking after yourself and scheduling time for yourself, which a lot of women don't do. And I know that I put it in my calendar because I'm going to want a mani-pedi. I'm going to want a facial. I'm going to want a massage or whatever, but I got to book that time. Otherwise, that time is going to go to somebody who says, "Oh, can I have an hour of your time?"
Yep.
No, no, you can't. I need to recharge.
Yeah.
And we get wise as we get older. We get smarter, right?
We do. We do. I also think it's so interesting because when I start working with most women, they're in their 40s or 50s, and either they've spent so much time on their career and they've achieved it and they go, "Well, what now?" because they haven't thought about themselves and what their personal goals are because they've been focused on their career, or the exact opposite. They've been yes, they have a job and they have a career. They've been raising their kids and taking care of the family. Maybe they're the sandwich generation, caring for
Right.
elderly parents. And at the end of the day, they go, "What do I want?" And they look at me like I have 17 heads. What do you mean? That's why I ask them, "What do you want?" So it's giving ourselves permission to take time for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredibly important for every one of us to have at least 90 minutes a week of staring out the window time. You can do it in 15-minute increments, whatever it is, but staring out the window and just letting your mind wander.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a Jew in the desert. And I can say that because I'm Jewish.
Okay, me too. So
Okay.
you can, I was a hypnotherapist too. And so for me, I download when I drive. So if I just go for a drive and I just tune, because you're in a trance state when you drive,
Yeah.
that's when all the good stuff comes. That's when and I always have to keep, my phone or a recorder nearby because those really good ideas are just going to float away if I don't,
I
speak
get
them in the
mine in
car.
the shower.
Yeah, a lot of people get them
Anytime
in the
I'm near
shower.
water, which is why I moved 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, to be near water.
Where are you?
Annapolis, Maryland, in between. I'm like literally like a 10-minute
Oh,
walk to the Chesapeake Bay. So I'm 2 hours from
beautiful.
the Atlantic Ocean and kind of midway between DC and Baltimore.
I'm so jealous. Yeah. But I still really love mountains too. So I just wouldn't know where to go. I'm just in this ugly place. I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that. People come here and go, so green. It is very green here for a while. Okay. Well, Jen, wow. Thank you so much for being my guest. I hope that you all see the personality, see who we're dealing with. When you read the book, you get her. You get this persona right there. She's sitting right beside you. She's telling you her jokes. And she's making learning fun and making it fun to understand, why you can just give up that persona. Now, you don't need to be an imposter anymore. You can just throw that away and say goodbye and say, you know what, I'm good enough. And I'm leading, I'm already doing it. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
You're just not giving yourself the permission to say, I'm really doing it.
I'm really doing it. Owning your power, owning your agency, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Owning your agency. So own your own agency. Call it what you will.
Yep. Yep.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to Facebook. Goodbye, Facebook. I'm going to say goodbye to you right now. And I'm going to stop recording.